My name is Stephen Morris. I'm the chair of the State Board of Education, and I come from Windham County. On my left is Sean Marie Oler from Bennington. On her left is Peter Peltz, another board member. On my far right is Bill Mathis, a state board member, and Chris Leopold, our attorney. I just want to very briefly outline what's in these rules and give you the rules of the evening before we start. The State Board of Education started this process over a year ago. We suggested to the Agency of Education that the rules on independent schools had not been updated since 2001, and it was time to take a review. And I understand that they're fairly controversial, so I want to address some of the concerns. One of the areas in the rules is physical accountability. Another one addresses admission policy, and there are some proposed rules on special education. There is nothing in these rules that have anything to do with school choice. Under the law of the state of Vermont, school choice is decided by the voters of the district. The State Board of Education has no say on whether a district operates a school or offers school choice. I think there's been a lot of misinformation around this issue, but I want to start this evening off because I know a lot of you have this concern that there is nothing in these rules that would affect your ability to decide if you want to offer school choice, and if so, where you want to offer that choice in the area. There's a section in the rules as we drafted them is not as clear as it should be. It talks about compliance with federal, state rules and laws. And that, I think, has been misinterpreted to somehow affect school choice. School choice is not affected here at all. Since these rules have become so controversial, this four-person subset of the State Board of Education has been meeting with representatives of the Independent School Association in Vermont, and I think we're making some great progress. And at some point early this winter, based on our work with that committee, based on what we hear this evening, we'll dictate changes in the rules, and then it'll be about a 6 or 8 month process with several public hearings on the rules. So this is just the very beginning of the process. We understand that we take our responsibility to make sure all children in the state of Vermont are treated equally for educational purposes, but we are here to listen tonight. What I would suggest, those of you that want to speak tonight have signed in on the sheets. Our limitation is 2 minutes, so if you can keep your comments down to 2 minutes, it's greatly appreciated. And if you exceed the 2 minutes, I will remind you that you're over it. If you have heard someone already make the point that you intend to make, I would suggest that maybe you not make your presentation. If anyone has written presentations that they could give us as opposed to everyone speaking this evening, that would be appreciated. We're scheduled to be here until 7:30. We may stay longer, but I would really urge you to consider, if the point has been made that you want to make, either pass in your written testimony or assume that we've heard it. We're a very dedicated group. We understand that we're here to serve the people and the students of Vermont, and we're taking this very seriously. So with that, I'll start, and we're going to call on your headmaster, Mark Tashahan. I assume that applause is for my little speech, not Mark coming to the podium.
Thank you, Chairman Morris. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Cautionary statement, it is a full moon tonight, so let's hope that we can keep ourselves in check a little bit. We're here today to grapple with the most important question facing our communities and, quite frankly, our country, and that is, how should young people be educated in the 21st century? I want to thank the board members here tonight, Mr. Mathis, Mr. Morris, Ms. Marie Aller, and Mr. Peltz. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this time. And thank you for being part of our smaller dialogues. They mean a lot. Tonight, as you can see from this audience, you will experience a community that cares deeply. I'm proud to be a part of this community, not only as headmaster of Burton Academy, but as a father of 4 young children. Not only as chair of the Council of Independent Schools for Vermont, but as a Manchester resident, someone who moved here from New York City and fell in love with the special nature of what we have here. We have a packed house tonight. The latest count I got is that 5 of you are in favor of these rules, and over 100 are prepared to speak in opposition. And that's not all. Our state senators are concerned, the governor-elect is concerned, our representatives are concerned. I love Burton more than any school I have ever been associated with. But our community is better if Long Trail School continues to exist. Our community is better if Maple Street School, the Mountain School at Winhall, MEMS, Dorset, Floodbrook, all these schools provide a system of care for our students. Our community is better when we work together rather than against each other. And respectfully, Chairman Morris, if these rules reduce choices, that is our great concern. We know that choice is not being challenged, but the choices available could be, and we want to protect that. So as an educator, I recognize that not every school, large and small, can be best for every single kid. Rather, my hope for this community is the same as my hope for my own children, that we have a range of offerings so that each child can find his or her special place. And one more thing, and this is a statement to all of you, you'll figure out soon that these bleachers are not very comfortable. So I ask on behalf of the school board that we limit our comments to 2 minutes. Thank you for your attention, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. The world is run by those who show up, and you are definitely running the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will be brief. My name is Brian Keefe. I'm a 25-year resident of Manchester, and I'm a newly elected state rep from this area. Lived here 25 years. We've raised 2 children and have experienced a combined 26 years of schooling with our 2 children. 13 years were in public schools, 13 years independent schools. We've experienced 3 independent schools, including BBA. We have 12 years of experience with an IEP, Individualized Education Plan, special education. 6 years at a public school, 6 years at independent schools. 3 different independent schools, as I said, including BBA. In our experience, the teachers and administrators at the 3 independent schools were more familiar with and attentive to our IEP plan, its goals, and its objectives. And when I hear people say that independent schools are not attentive to some of the state special education rules, I'm here to say that's not been our experience. In the larger picture, I will echo what Mark Tashian said. Vermont's school system, both public and independent, should be and can be a state asset in attracting young families, which is a key demographic need in our state. If you look at the demographic here, it's much more important to our future of Vermont than some of the other demographics that you see at public meetings. I think it's a testimony that so many people in a key demographic are showing up because this is an important issue. And it's been our experience that independent schools are highly accountable to the families they serve and to the public they serve. And I believe that state regulations should be more compatible with the reality of how independent schools operate. They are part of our history, our culture, and our economy. And I think changes should be made deliberately so that unintended consequences are minimized. And I'll make one more comment. I was speaking to a gentleman who I know in this community, and I know he moved here from California. He had opportunities to live in other states, and he said he came here because of the school opportunities and school choice in particular. And he said that he spoke to a doctor who's here for the same reason, and there are many people in this room who are in this region because of school choice, and I understand this is not a direct assault on school choice, but again, the unintended consequences are something we should guard against. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Board, fellow residents, my name is Chris Howe, and I'm a former U.S. Navy SEAL. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire and went to a very similar high school to that of Burton Academy. I volunteered for and enlisted in the Navy's Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, Class 257, 248 original candidates. 6 months later, we graduated 12 of those original 248. During my 8 years of active duty service, I conducted 2 combat deployments to Baghdad and Fallujah, Iraq, serving as my team's senior medic and lead sniper on all 66 direct action combat missions against our nation's enemies. My wife and I decided to start a family while I was still on active duty. And in 2012, we made the decision to leave the service due to our children. Now, my wife's from upstate New York, and like I said, I'm from New Hampshire, but we didn't want either of those school choices, either of those options that they presented. We moved to Vermont specifically because of Burton Academy, specifically because we have the choice. Mr. Chairman, board members, my eldest daughter is 2 years, is in 2nd grade. I have 2 more that I haven't even started kindergarten yet. I told her where I was going this evening over dinner, and she frankly said, "Dad, why do they want to take our choices away?" This from a 7.5-year-old that when I went to pick her up at school the other day, she was tying a 1st grader's shoe. Mr. Chairman, board members, I moved to this town specifically because of Burton Academy and the choices I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson Morris and members of the State Board of Education. My name is John O'Keefe, and I'm the town manager for the town of Manchester, a position I have held for almost 10 years. On behalf of municipal government in Manchester, I'd like to offer you a warm welcome to Manchester. I'd also like to thank you for the opportunity to comment on the board's proposed Rule Series 2200. Even in its current form, I have grave concerns about the State Board of Education's proposed Rule Series 2200. The rule is, I believe, a classic example of a solution in search of a problem. This one-size-fits-all, top-down approach to education policy is contrary to the community's best interest, the best interest of our local students, and over a century of local tradition in educational excellence. Throughout the process, I've asked myself, what is the problem or problems that the board is attempting to correct through this proposed rule? Are parents and students upset with the quality of education they are receiving? Do statistics suggest that the education that the students are receiving is somehow substandard? To the contrary, I can tell you that Manchester parents and students are extremely satisfied with the education that is being provided, and the test scores and other key educational statistics support the fact that our system of school choice is working better than the overall Vermont education system. In an area that is often forgotten by Montpelier and lags behind Chittenden County in terms of economic growth, our educational system and school choice helps southwestern Vermont compete against larger communities in both Vermont and the Northeast. School choice not only works in Manchester and the North Shire, it thrives. Educational attainment in Manchester and the surrounding area has flourished, and in large part because of school choice. I'll talk even faster.
It's 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. I have heard over and over again firsthand from families that decide to move to Manchester because of our schools. In fact, Manchester's educational system is the main reason that my wife and I moved here 10 years ago. We now have children in grades 5th and 7th grade in the local public school, and we are beginning to think about which schools they will attend for high school. This choice is empowering and something that too few parents and students have in Vermont. I truly appreciate your willingness to listen and compromise, and I believe the State Board of Education is attempting to fix a problem that does not exist. I strongly urge the board to reverse course on this potentially disastrous, ill-conceived public policy and focus on the real issues facing our state and its education system.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Representative Oliver Olson. On behalf of our community, I want to thank the State Board of Education for making the time to listen to our concerns. 4 of the 5 towns I represent in the Vermont House have school choice: Londonderry, Stratton, Weston, and Winhall. 96% of roughly 200 high school students in these 4 towns attend 19 different independent schools. The State Board of Education's proposed amendments to Rule Series 2200 would have a dramatic impact on all of these schools and the students from my district who attend them. The State Board has stated that these rules do not alter school choice. The reality is that these rules will have the effect of severely limiting which schools a school district can pay tuition to, resulting in a 2-tiered system. One where students from low and middle income families are left with fewer choices, while the affluent will continue to have full access to full school choice. School choice, which includes access to a full range of public and independent schools, is one of the greatest economic assets we have in this region. Look at everyone who turned out this evening. At a time when Vermont is wringing its hands about the difficulty recruiting and retaining a younger generation, these rules would undermine one of the greatest assets we have. Opponents of school choice, represented by registered lobbyists who are here tonight, are trying to frame these rules as a civil rights issue, about protecting the rights of students with disabilities. But don't be fooled. This is part of a carefully orchestrated effort to undermine school choice for purely ideological reasons. Like all parents, I want my children to have access to schools that best serve their needs, including the special needs of my oldest child, who has multiple disabilities. We have a vibrant educational ecosystem that provides exceptional educational opportunities for students of every ability. No one school can meet the needs of all our children, but collectively, all of our schools, each with their own mission, work as part of a comprehensive system to ensure that the unique needs of every child are met.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dean Giannotti Jr. I am the most recent addition to the Winhall School Board. We're a non-operating district here nearby. I have my youngest sister is in the access program here at Burton. I understand the importance of having equitable service for all of our special needs students. And that being said, I'm deeply, deeply concerned with some of the proposed rules changes in these amendments. I am mostly concerned about the lack of data that we've been presented with. I have seen no study of economic outcomes for communities, for schools, for parents. You have seemed to want to impose on these independent schools the requirement that they disclose their financial status, that they're financially sound, but you've offered no specifics as to what qualifies an independent school to be certified under these standards. How much debt is acceptable? Could you revoke an independent school certification based on how much money they have to borrow to continue educating their students? And I find that these are really important questions that we, the communities and the parents and the school boards need answers to, because from our perspective, it's a very onerous burden. It's making it very, very difficult for us to see how we're going to continue to give the quality of education that all of these people are here because they enjoy so much. And I would really like to see some studies of economic outcomes, what it's going to cost these schools to comply. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Laura Giannotti, Dean's mom. My name is Laura Giannotti. My family and I moved to Winhall, Vermont from Long Island 11 years ago. We chose Winhall because it's a town that offers school choice. My family is for keeping school choice as it is. My husband Dean and I have 4 children, 3 of which are now or have in the past benefited from Vermont schools. They all learn differently, and all 3 have attended different schools, public and independent. Part of the reason Vermont has so many good schools is because they can be different. They can satisfy the countless different needs that children have. One of our children has a fairly comprehensive individual educational program. She has learning needs, special learning needs. Let me be clear. We do not feel she is being discriminated against because all independent schools do not offer a special education program. We would prefer to send her to a school that is choosing to put money, time, and staff to create a well-functioning program, rather than one that is forced by the State Board of Education to provide that. Rather than one that may be forced to create a subpar program, because that is not where their school's focus lies. I, as a parent of a special needs child, ask that you do not use our children as a pawn to change an already well-functioning educational system.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the State Board of Education. My name is Mark Kaplan. I'm the current chair of the Manchester Elementary Middle School Board. I'm here tonight to support school choice in independent schools. I have been a strong supporter of Burton Academy and look forward to the days when my two boys will attend BBA. School choice is one of the very reasons that my wife and I chose to move to Manchester. I am asking the State Board of Education to strongly reconsider its position on school choice and access to independent schools. The current system has worked in Vermont and in our community for almost 200 years. The constituency in Manchester has supported choice every year at town meeting and will continue to do so every year. Burton provides a place for all students within our community to receive an excellent education, and I ask the State Board of Education, why would you want to disrupt the system that has been so successful for all of our students for so long? The current rules of choice do not need to change. I do not support the proposed amendment. Rule Series 2200. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. I am a mother of two. My youngest child is now in kindergarten. I'm also the director of technology here at BBA. I had been looking for the right place for my family. I moved from the metro New York area. I was working in New York City in an independent school, and I've been in schooling for 20 years. And when I say looking for the right area, not just community, but seeing a place that is getting schools right, who's thinking that not every child is the same, and not every child has the same needs, and that schools can specialize. My concern with these rules is that equity turns into excellence for no one, rather than So I am very concerned about these rules and have a lot of questions about them, and I'm afraid that they will indeed affect choice because of the rules around governance, the rules around finance, and a number of the other issues in there. So I would consider not proceeding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Dan Flanagan. I'm a teacher at BBA, and I represent three contingencies. The first is my family. From my daughter Maddie's first day at BBA shaking Chuck Scranton's hand in the fall of 2003, until my son Shay's ringing of the bell and shaking Mark Tashjian's hand on the senior steps this past June, I spent 13 years as a Bulldog parent. During that time, my four children had countless opportunities to discover themselves, whether academically or in athletics or the performing arts, or simply by being immersed in the culture of BBA. From an insider's perspective as a teacher, I could see everything that BBA was doing for my children and for all of our children. Whether it's, by everything, I mean the Mountain Campus, the Roland Center, the Target program, the Success program, the Smith Center, state-of-the-art technology, and performing and visual arts that blow audiences away continually. BBA is always asking what we can do better for the students. How much of this would be possible without our annual fundraising or without the incredibly generous gifts from our community? My children, our children, benefit tremendously. So what do they give in return for everything we do for them? unparalleled school spirit, 2 Mona Garon Sportsmanship Awards hanging on the wall behind me, so many student trips to New Orleans, New Jersey, and into the homes of friends and neighbors here in the North Shire after Hurricanes Katrina and Irene, the utmost respect for the facilities, the faculty and staff, and to themselves. There is so much interest paid on what our community has invested, and investors want one thing, returns, and I think our students have given returns. I'm very proud to be a part of what's accomplished and what I see every day at BBA. I know one of the rules being considered by the board is to mandate independent schools employing licensed teachers only. As a licensed teacher myself, part of me thinks that that is not such a bad thing. Licenses reflect certain competencies, whether as a surgeon or electrician or as a pilot. And who wants to be compromised by an unlicensed pilot? But think about this. What if our science department advertises for a physics teacher? Who shows up for the interview but Stephen Hawking? It could happen, and we could hire him. For some reason, I laugh thinking about the department chair, Dave Curtis, saying, "Sorry, old chap, but you don't have a license." Being an independent school allows BBA to seek, find, recruit, and hire from a pool of candidates who are experts in their field. It's that simple. We have a very talented faculty here, and licensed or not, I'm very proud to be counted among them.
Thank you. I just want to quickly respond that these rules only propose licensed teachers for special education, not for anything else in independent schools. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tamara Mount. I'm the head of school at Hilltop Montessori School in Brattleboro, Vermont. And we have 130 children from toddler through middle school. And while I know these rules don't affect the early education years, we have the benefit of having state funding help many of our early childhood students attend Hilltop, and we also more typically have middle school voucher students that come. And by having additional state funding available to help support the tuition at our school, we're able to have other funding that helps other students come, and we're really able to have a broad economic diversity at the school, which we feel is very important. And we are often able to serve students who have not been successful in the traditional school environment. Being a Montessori school, we have an open classroom, people can move around, students are taught at exactly the level where they are, and in that way, we often have students that have had an IEP in a traditional school and have needed extra support and pull-out, but in our Montessori school, we're able to serve their needs and have them be successful in a very cost-effective way for both the state and for the whole community. We, however, are not the best fit for all students. We had a student apply to us who was a little behind in language, had some hearing issues. We thought we could meet his needs, have our learning specialist work with him, and then soon after we had accepted him, his IEP got expanded as he was moving from another state, and he was going to need a FM audio system and all sorts of extra work and extra equipment, and that would not be successful in our environment. So we want to be able to be available to families that can have an option that will really meet their child's needs and stay viable to be a part of the web of the community of educational services.
Hello. I come to you as both a parent here, a resident of Manchester, and a teacher at BBA. Next year, both of my children came through our public K-8 school, MEMS, and they will both be students here at BBA next year. I have taught at several other schools, and it was to my great joy and amazement that I came here to discover our wonderful model in Vermont of our Vermont academies. Both of my children have needed extra support at different times that were not available at all schools. And I'm so happy that they are at the schools where they are and that we are able to have the choice, living in Manchester, to send them to these schools. I think that BBA, St. Johnsbury, and our other academies are a model to be emulated in this nation, not hindered. I just wanted to make the point also that echoes a few things that have been said, like Amy said, that equity for all can sometimes turn into excellence for none. When we make our programs for our students at school, we look at the distribution requirements and we look at different classes and different programs, and one size does not fit all. And that's a very important thing that we believe in, is making sure that we are having a course selection for each student that fits them and their goals. And it is equally important to have schools that are available to fit their goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Lori Bovey, and I'm from Danby. I have 3 children, and they have attended public school and in independent schools. All have been great for them. We did not move here. We have been here since the late 1700s, and we understand the history of Vermont, and are proud of that history for the choice and understanding that our children are independent thinkers and they have independent needs. My oldest daughter attended Long Trail, and she's about to graduate doing fantastic from Johnson State College. My son graduated from BBA in June of this past year, and he, at 18, was hired full-time, with VTrans. He's plowing your roads as we speak. And my youngest daughter currently attends BBA as a sophomore, and she is blossoming here. The staff is fantastic. They're making her confident. They're encouraging her to be a fantastic student and responsible. Now, I understand the regulations are not going to hinder our choice, but they will, because unfortunately, some of us of middle to lower means will be restricted, because the schools are going to be restricted in what they can offer. And as far as the staff in both schools, they're fantastic. They go above and beyond helping our students, and I thank them greatly, and I thank them for their support.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rosalie Fox. I'd like to give you some testimony afterwards. I'll try to summarize it. In 2007, my husband Lee and I moved to Vermont when he was offered a marvelous position in Arlington, Vermont. We could have chosen to stay in Massachusetts and move to Williamstown, which would have been marvelous, but we decided to move to Vermont and really immerse ourselves in the community. And after searching schools, both public and independent, all the way from Western Massachusetts, even further north than Manchester, we settled on BBA, but we had no idea how incredible this school was going to be for our daughter and how much, in fact, it really saved her. So I want to share personally that our daughter, our 3rd child, we settled in Dorset. As you know, we paid too much for our house. But we wanted to be in the valley because she was a new driver and we needed to not to have her on mountain roads. She started BBA as a 16-year-old, resenting having left Massachusetts and all of her friends, her home. She was angry as could be. She got to BBA, would not get up in the morning, very rarely did. Got to school. When she did get to school, she turned in assignments late. We got to know Mr. Cirilli very well for truancy and lateness. She was about to drop out of school. I even researched what getting into UVM with a GED would do for her. But the last minute she agreed to go to the Target program for kids at risk. She spent a few months there after being driven up to the main campus for math and science classes, decided she missed all that intellectual stimulation she got in her other courses, came back to the campus, graduated on time, and may I tell you how this school saved her? Our daughter, the truant, the student who was fabulous but didn't turn in work, that was about to drop out, got into Elmira College with great support from her teachers, from the guidance staff, from the administration. She earned her BSN with honors in 2014, was inducted to the International Honor Society of Nursing, passed her national boards on the first try. Within 2 months of college graduation, started working at a hospital in Los Angeles. She's now an ER nurse and told us last month she wants to move back to Vermont to continue her nursing education and work.
Thank you. Well, 3 minutes.
So please don't underestimate what independent schools like BBA has been doing for a century and a half and continues to do. This is an incredible place that should only be supported.
Thank you. Go to CJ.
Thank you. Unlike most everyone else here, I have no children at any independent school or any school in Vermont. I moved to Dorset several years ago. I'm proud to serve on the board of trustees of Burton. I've been involved over the years with 5 independent schools, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Florida, and now Vermont. I also was president of a college just outside of Boston, a small college for 7 years. I can tell you that the kids coming out of independent schools, particularly independent schools that have the ability and the flexibility to deal with the needs of each individual, end up coming to college better prepared to perform, compete, and excel. And one of the big benefits in Vermont, and in particular in this part of Vermont, is that there are lots of choices. These choices are really important. There is no way in the world that every school can be everything to everybody. When you have a child that needs some special help, you have to be able to pick the school that you believe as a parent will provide that help. I've seen it work. I've seen the product of schools in 5 states, and it would be a shame if changes were made to the rules here in Vermont that would in any way compromise the real competitive advantage the Vermont schools have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of the Vermont Family Network, I would like to offer input in support of the State Board to move forward with this proposed rulemaking regarding Vermont-based independent schools. VFN is the federally designated Family-to-Family Health Information Center and the Parent Training and Information Center for Vermont. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that. We are a family organization whose mission... Short people. We are a family organization whose mission is to empower and support all Vermont families of children with special needs. The proposed rules ensure open enrollment and that students in all categories of disabilities can be served by independent schools receiving public funding. Some independent schools have close to 90% of their students publicly funded and can deny access to students because they need special education services. We believe this practice is a violation of the rights of students with disabilities to access the same programs and services available to their non-disabled peers. We have helped families whose children with disabilities have struggled with receiving appropriate services in independent schools. As an example, students were placed into a one-size-fits-all classroom for a portion of each day in an independent school rather than receiving the individualized services they needed. Families have faced barriers enrolling their children in independent schools, ranging from wait lists where children with the most severe disabilities never seem to get to the top of the list, while children with less severe disabilities get admitted to parents who have encouraged to obtain additional education evaluations to change the qualifying category to one that the independent school was approved for in order for that child to gain admission. These updated rules are crucial to ensuring that all students, regardless of their disability or protected class status, are able to enroll with their peers in any independent school that is funded with public education dollars and have successful outcomes. Our most vulnerable students need access to sound educational practices, and we hope that the State Board will move forward with the proposed rulemaking to ensure that all of Vermont's children have equitable access to a quality education. Thank you.
My name is Holly Wendell, and I'm the assistant headmaster at Stratton Mountain School. As both a school administrator and a parent of a child who will be educated in this community, I support school choice and access to independent schools. Stratton Mountain School is a winter sports academy. As the first ski academy accredited by the NEASC, SMS has a strong tradition of college preparatory academics, combined with a comprehensive and innovative training program. Since the school's inception, nearly every SMS graduate has continued to a 4-year college or deferred to pursue a career in winter sport. In addition, SMS has 66 Olympic placements, 42 Olympians as students, while more than 100 athletes have been named to national teams. Each year, 45 to 48% of our students are day students, and 78% of those students have school choice. 51% of them also receive financial aid from SMS. Most of these students will no longer be able to attend SMS under the proposed new rules because SMS will be unable to offset the balance of their tuition. This year we gave $800,000 in financial aid, and we simply don't have the room in our budget to increase that number. I stand before you today because our headmaster is on a development trip, meeting with people to try to meet that number, or he would be here today. As an educator, I support any effort to improve special education. However, I do not believe it's realistic to expect each school to be able to provide service in every category of special need. At SMS, we accept students with special needs in the classroom, and due to our low student-teacher ratio, we're able to provide for these students. The intensity of our athletic program would make it difficult for us to have true open enrollment, however, and we know that there are other schools in the community that would better serve some students. The diversity of local schools is what members of this community appreciate, and it's this diversity that these rules will limit. I ask you to consider that some local alumni who came to SMS from school choice are Olympic medalists Ross Powers, Lindsay Jacobellis, and Alex Diebold, along with Olympians Sophie Caldwell and Jackie Hernandez, and we hope that we can provide this kind of service to more students like them. Thank you.
I'm Kate Koch from Peru. My husband Bill and I are here tonight to support school choice for Vermont families and to recognize the importance of access to independent schools. We have 2 children who attend Stratton Mountain School. I would like to speak not only to their experience, but also to the experience of many local families. Vermont boasts an amazing cross-country skiing tradition, including an incredible slate of elite skiers. We also are home to a thriving youth skiing community. Thanks to the support of town tuition, children who wish to pursue excellence in skiing are able to attend SMS and train with the school's elite team, which comprises half the U.S. Nordic ski team, including multiple World Cup medal winners and a world champion. The opportunity for aspiring student athletes to train alongside these superstars is unparalleled. Stratton's Nordic student athletes are mostly local. 60% benefit from town tuition. Most parents of these kids would not be able to send their children to Stratton without this financial help. If you take away this access to independent schools, you leave it so only students from affluent families can attend a school like Stratton. Independent schools become havens of the rich, and local kids are denied the opportunity to pursue their dreams. Vermont's rugged geography lends itself to rural communities rather than urban centers. It contributes to facts of Vermont life, like bad cell service or internet service, but also to our diverse and very special schools. If my family were limited to public high school options, my children would spend over 90 minutes a day just commuting to classes. Instead, we live in a town that supports educating all its youth and endorses our family's right to choose the situation that best serves our children. I hope the Board of Education will continue the tradition of offering a wide range of educational opportunities for Vermonters. I stand against the proposed amendment to Rule Series 2200, which would in effect eliminate school choice as it exists today.
Hello, my name is Alex Lehman. I serve as the Dean of Academics at Stratton Mountain School. In the 18 years I've worked at SMS, I've met an amazing variety of local high school students who, through the unique options and opportunities allowed by school choice as it exists today, have realized life-changing experiences and achievements. It is an essential truth that the special needs of all children must be addressed as effectively as possible by our local schools. Of course, special needs take many forms, and no one school can or should be asked to address the special needs of all children. At Stratton Mountain School, around 12% of our students come to us diagnosed with learning disabilities. These are children who are often struggling or falling between the cracks in other environments. Over and over again during the past 18 years, I have seen the combination of physical activity, unique focus, and small individualized classrooms prove incredibly effective in helping such students redefine themselves and the possibilities for their futures. Experience and opportunities made available to our local students through school choice as it exists today. The large majority of the teaching faculty at SMS hold master's or more advanced degrees in the subject areas they teach. However, not a single member of our teaching staff is certified by the state of Vermont. 100% of SMS students gain admission to college every year. This year's class SAT average ranks in the 85th percentile nationwide among college-bound students. Of last year's graduating class, over 20% were admitted to the Ivy Leagues and over 50% to NASCAG schools. Last year, 7 of those graduates benefited with the support of local school choice. Those 7 students, through their individual athletic and academic achievements, are now student athletes. At Bates College, Harvard University, Middlebury College, St. Lawrence College, Smith College, the University of Vermont with generous athletic scholarship, and the last is a member of the United States ski team, the youngest member of the team. These are achievements made possible by school choice as it exists today. It would be tragic for the future population of local students to lose the ability to choose the schools they believe will best shape their lives for the future. Please protect school choice in its current form.
My name is Mary Mangicotti. I am currently an English teacher at Stratton Mountain School and previously taught at Maple Street School. 8 years ago, my husband and I moved up from New Jersey to southern Vermont to give our son and daughter the opportunity to pursue their passions for ski racing. School choice was one of the major factors in our decision to sell our house in New Jersey and relocate both our residency and our work. It was not only Vermont's ski racing traditions that sealed our decision, but also Vermont's commitment to allowing families to choose from a diverse range of educational opportunities. We found high-quality schools such as Maple Street and SMS to meet our educational needs and root us in the community. There is nothing more important to parents than to provide their children with the opportunities that will guide them to be their best. Because of school choice, our children and so many others we know have been able to choose the schools that best suit their needs. Stratton Mountain School's commitment to academic and athletic excellence offered a unique, once-in-a-lifetime experience for our children. We knew that because of school choice, we could move to Vermont and change our lives. We are not unique in our decision, as we know many families who have followed the same path and are now contributing to the economy and vitality of the Northshire and mountain towns. I am strongly in opposition to the proposed amendments to Rule Series 2200, which would make it very difficult for many independent schools to continue accepting students with town tuition, in effect limiting school choice.
Hello, my name is Ross Powers. I grew up in South Londonderry, where I attended Floodbrook from grades K through 8. My mom's worked at Bromley since before I was born, and that's where I fell in love with snowboarding. When it was time for high school, I was lucky enough to attend Stratton Mountain School. And if it wasn't for Londonderry being a school choice, I probably never would have had that opportunity. During my time at Stratton Mountain School, I made it on the first U.S. snowboard team and went on to have a successful career in snowboarding, winning 2 Olympic medals, one being gold in 2002. I now work at Stratton Mountain School running their snowboard program. I love working with our student athletes and giving them all the top opportunities to make it to the highest level as possible. We have many great schools in our community, and I'd really love for school choice to remain an option for today's students and their families, so they can attend the school they think is the best fit to be able to follow their dreams. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Lathrop. I'm a local business owner and financial advisor here in town. I moved here 25 years ago. Stratton brought us here, but it was school choice who kept us here. Since then, we've had 5 children, and they range from both ends of the spectrum. One who had learning disabilities, was on an IEP, and to children who needed to skip a year in order to stay focused in school. My kids attended public schools. Okay, they have attended both public schools and independent schools. When my son was in 7th grade, we sat in a conference room with 10 other people who told us he would never graduate high school and forget about his dreams to play college in tennis. As a mother who would advocate for her children, I walked out of there and found a school that would take him. Stratton Mountain School allowed my son to graduate high school and pursue his dreams. It may have taken him 5.5 years to graduate college, but he played tennis at a D2 and a D3 college and will graduate next year. My other children at an independent school, Stratton Mountain School, allowed
my daughter to be on the U.S. ski team development team at 15, and has allowed my other 4 children to attend school as well. 3 of them had the opportunity for academic and athletic scholarships and are attending D1, 2, and 3 schools today playing a sport. If it wasn't for Stratton Mountain School and the option of having school choice, they wouldn't be there today. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katie McNabb. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to all of us tonight. My husband and I, like so many people in this room, moved to Vermont from somewhere else. We brought our jobs with us, and we came here because of the remarkable community and the ability to find the just right school for our children. Both of my children are significantly hearing impaired. They each have special needs. They each need to be in just the right situation to meet those needs. The choices that are afforded to us in this community help us as a parent to find the just right place for them. My fear with these proposed rule changes is that options are going to be taken away from us, and that they are going to be forced to fit into a one-size-fits-all solution, and they're not one-size-fits-all children. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Morgan Taylor. My husband and I have lived in Vermont for 8 years. My sons Bryce and Levi are in the first grade and pre-K at the Mountain School at Winhall, an independent school. It is 8 minutes from our house and is truly our local school. We do not want our children to spend wasted time in a car or bus. My sons have grown up in a supportive, intimate campus environment at the Stratton Mountain School, where our family lives on campus and where my husband and I work. Transitioning to the intimate family at the Mountain School at Winhall was the best place for my sons. During the course of the week, every student presents some piece of their work publicly to the entire community. They are all vulnerable with each other every day. My husband and I have worked in schools combined for 36 years. We are both blown away by the love and kindness that is cultivated at the Mountain School at Winhall. I've had the privilege to witness a typical recess at MSW, a multi-age soccer game, older girls giving piggyback rides to kindergartners, and multi-age games of pretend. I feel such gratitude to be able to point to the respected older students and demand that my sons follow in their footsteps as encouraging older brothers to all their younger children. The Mountain School works hard to cultivate this thoughtful family through professional development in children's mindfulness and yoga training for its teachers, as well as working hard to create high standards of education. Having a diversity of schools in Vermont is paramount. When schools can focus their time and money on their particular vision of excellence, Vermont produces exceptional citizens. When schools and staff are forced to divert any of their precious time and money to outside demands, their vision is stifled, students and staff suffer, and Vermont loses in creating exciting hotbeds of education. When we limit the diversity of educational ideas and opportunities, great people leave, and great people aren't attracted to settle here. As we know in biology, when a species moves towards genetic homogeneity, they move towards extinction. I hope we can continue to keep Vermont vibrant, diverse, and relevant in our rapidly changing times. I am in opposition to proposed amendments to Rule Series 2200.
Good evening. Chairman Morse and board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening and come down here. My name is Stephen Deere. I'm the head of school at Long Trail School, which is a 6th through 12th school in Dorset, Vermont. I, like many people, have moved to this area because of our passion and love for skiing back in 2006. When we moved up here, our students had only been to public schools and had good experiences. When we moved up here, we found that we needed to make some choices. In both instances, we were very fortunate because for our son, he needed a big school, he needed the opportunity to grow, meet a lot of new people, and he certainly did that here at BBA. He had an amazing experience, and something we're very, very proud of. Our daughter, on the other hand, needed a smaller school, smaller classrooms, a huge focus on the academics, and she ended up at Long Trail School, and once again had a great experience. The one thing that I can't push enough this evening is the uniqueness and that the different missions that different schools have, and I think that's what makes them so successful and the parents so proud of what we have here today. My biggest concern is that uniqueness goes away, that we will falter as a state, we will continue to lose people. When I look at Long Trail School, just in the last years, as long as I've been here, we're growing at a 35% rate. Why is that? I think it's because of our uniqueness. I think it's because of our academics. I believe it's because of great faculty. And when I look at our support services area, which is another great area, something we're very proud of, we're only certified in 4 areas, but those are all areas that we feel strongly meets the mission of the school. And in turn, when I think about students and I think about ensuring that they're getting the best quality education, I think it's important to recognize that when you have support services people that are so committed, as so many of these schools are, that you get the best product possible. So many, and I've actually had parents say to me a number of times, well, what do you do with all the other categories? I work with great people in the supervisory union. There's a girl here, a woman named Randy Koulis, who works with us, and when we call them up and say, look, we have someone that's come here, we can't meet their needs, let me work with you at the BRSU, and they do an amazing job to help place our students. It's something I'm very proud of in a relationship that's been great for our school, because they've challenged us to be better at what we do in our finances, and I love that. So I thank you very much, and I hope that you will continue to look at and hear what these people are saying, but most importantly, keep the Rule 2200 as is today with no amendments. Thank you.
My name is Jody Sanderson. This is my husband, Brian Sanderson. We have 2 amazing young children growing up every minute. One's chuckling at me right now. Love you, honey. Our son has been at Long Trail School since 6th grade. He is now a junior. Our daughter is an 8th grader. This is her first year at Long Trail. We've been at public schools and at Long Trail. I am also a classroom teacher in a public school. I'm a little nervous, so please bear with me. I'm trying to practice my breathing here. I see firsthand what is happening to our public education system. And I can't say that it's something that fills me with joy. Which is really, really sad, because teaching is my passion. It is what I'm here for. And I see that with regulations and mandates that the state is putting on public education, that passion is getting stomped on. I say that because we made a choice as a family that our children need something different. And we have 2 very different children, and they are both getting what they need. They are learning to persevere. That is a word that is becoming obsolete in our society. They have learned to advocate for themselves, to use their voice. It's the most powerful gift you've been given. Use it. We as a community and as a society have to advocate for our children, for our communities, and for our state, and this is our opportunity. And when I say opportunity, that is what's going to be taken away if these rules do so happen. You say school choice is not affected by this. I think we all know in this room that that is not necessarily the case. There are serious ratifications that will happen that will hinder the access to these independent schools that we so desperately needed to be a part of. So I just want to say a big thank you to Long Trail, the staff, the teachers. It is all about respect, and what they show and model every single day is respect and passion, and I thank you.
Hi, my name is Nava Crisp, and I'm currently a student at Long Trail. I find it somewhat ironic that the State Board of Education has deemed the terms equality and equity as interchangeable. While they're undoubtedly similar, their differences in educational policy can spawn starkly disparate schooling systems. The common analogy is 3 people at a baseball game, an adult, child, and toddler. All 3 of them are standing behind a fence, the 2 younger ones putting every ounce of their effort into trying to see the game above the fence. To make the scenario about equality, we give each of the 3 people a step stool that is the exact same height. The only problem is that, while this is technically equal, the toddler is still too short to see over the fence. To counter this, we introduced the concept of equity. Instead of giving them all the same stool, each one is given a stool that is the appropriate height in order for them to see over the fence and watch the game. Independent schools represent the latter. Because we are not all the same, because we are not a homogeneous society, and because we can't all conform to mass standardization, independent schools such as Long Trail and VBA serve as an equitable source of education in Vermont. While Rule Series 2200 preaches that its goals are to attain educational equality, I ask how forcing a diverse population into one environment serves as just that. Is it equality that a severely autistic child should now be placed in a public school with thousands of kids? Or that a student thriving in the International Baccalaureate Diploma program at Long Trail will suddenly need to give it up? This may sound naive, but don't propose a statute emphasizing equality when that's the exact opposite of what will be accomplished. Implementing Rule Series 2200 will ensure that our progress and advancement as an innovative state will only be inhibited. Students, like myself, cannot be rounded up and pigeonholed. Not only would that disrupt and negatively impact our current schooling and educational opportunities, but it would simultaneously manifest its consequences when our generation is in charge. Rule Series 2200 is not a subtle change, but a long-term threat to all. We are your future, so please don't overlook the drastic effects that this will have.
I have to follow that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Joe McVicker. My wife and I moved to Dorset 2.5 years ago for pretty much the sole reason that we had great educational options here. And what makes them great educational options is that they're different. We would love to send kids to BBA, we would love to send kids to SMS, we would love to send kids to Long Trail. What was important is those schools offered different educational programs for us. We wound up at Long Trail, we're very happy. We've got a full IB candidate who's going to graduate this year, go on to college. We've got another one that's Long Trail's working with us to figure out how to keep him stimulated in math because he's precocious in math. And I think all of these schools that are here are doing something special that attracts the population that wants to attend them. So I'm against anything that would limit access to unique educational programs, and I'm against anything that would make these programs harder for the individuals who bring them to us to accomplish. Don't make it harder for these guys. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lydia Quevedo, and I'm a senior as well as vice president of student council at Long Trail School. I firmly believe that the proposed Rule 2200 will impede the ability of independent schools like LTS and BBA to fulfill their goals of educating students. I think that quality, individualized education should be available to everyone, regardless of their socioeconomic status or special needs that a student may have. This is why I love independent schools like LTS. This is why I moved some almost 3,000 miles from California to attend school in Vermont. My specific needs as a student are met here. If I'm having a problem, I can go to a teacher or faculty member and get that problem addressed. I have peers in my classes who have similar problems or have special needs. And as an independent school, we have the resources to address those needs that are specific to that student. It's almost like a memory foam matrix. We get the support where we need it, we get freedom and independence where we also need it, and then we can grow. So, where was I? If Long Trail was not an independent school, that is, as if it were required to follow the same regulations as a public school, then all of a sudden this would change. It would suddenly become a regular mattress, which is great support for a lot of people, but it's not the kind of support that every student needs. To make another biology analogy, it's like thinking of a large realized niche of an organism. So in theory, it can thrive in a school with a large realized niche, can address many students with many needs, but that doesn't mean that it's going to do the best for each student. To have a thriving ecosystem, you need organisms that have highly specific niches. To have a thriving educational system, you need to have these schools with these very specific niches so that you can have students getting their needs met wherever they need them to be met. If Long Trail was forced, well, not just Long Trail, was forced to change to have these policies to address the needs of hypothetical students that are not necessarily attending the school, then we would lose resources that we could better concentrate on the students that are actually attending our school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Francis. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Superintendents Association. I live in Montpelier. I have two daughters who attended Montpelier High School. And I think that if in Montpelier there was a perceived threat to either the students or the school, in a manner that folks are perceiving threats to this school tonight, I think we'd see a turnout exactly like this one. I think that the public engagement on this issue is commendable. And we know that schools are stronger when they have public engagement like this. The Vermont Superintendents Association works with public schools and also with independent schools. The independent schools that help make up the rich fabric that is Vermont's education delivery system. As an association, we have also in the past taken positions in support of legislation in favor of school choice. I want to begin with a strong acknowledgement of the contributions to the public education system made by Vermont's so-called historic academies. These institutions have played an enormously significant role providing education to Vermont students for nearly 2 centuries. They function de facto as the public high schools for the regions. Of the 4 historic academies, the percent of students enrolled through payment of public tuition ranges from 65% to 88%. With respect to the rules, I think that the early process of drafting, explanation, communications, and talking past one another has contributed, in my view, to a near unprecedented amount of acrimony and angst. I've not observed this type of disharmony on any single education policy issue over the course of my work with the Superintendents Association. As an observer of this process from the beginning, I firmly believe that the State Board of Education has the best interests, and this may come as a surprise to many of you here tonight, best interest of students, communities, and taxpayers at the core of its decision to propose these rules. Right now, the emphasis on education in Vermont is on affordability, opportunity, and quality. From the outset, the intention of the State Board was to update the rules to do the following things. Assure the fiscal solvency of independent schools serving students supported with public dollars. It's absolutely reasonable and good policy to seek assurances that institutions functioning as part of the public education delivery system have the financial strength to stay in business. An involuntary break in educational continuity due to a school going out of business would not serve students well, and a lost investment of public dollars if and when an independent school closed would not serve taxpayers well. Now, people may say appropriately here, not my school, but keep in mind there are some 90 independent schools in Vermont. 2, assure that independent schools are accredited entities approved by the State Board of Education. Where public dollars are invested, the state has a duty to assure a sufficient level of quality. 3, assure that independent schools abide by appropriate health and safety rules. 4, and this I think is significant, assure that the independent school is approved to offer special education services or be able to assure that a student attending can receive special education services. When public dollars are received, the school should be able to support any child irrespective of a special learning need. This is important for both the child and the community. Consider the case of a group of students who are all together in a public school up until 6th grade. They are all together as friends and classmates. Several have some form of learning disability. 7th grade comes and the majority of the class heads off to a local independent school, but several can't attend that school because they have a special need. Last point.
So my name's Steve Harrington. I moved here in 2009 with my family. My 2 children are students at Long Trail School. And I moved here because of people. Okay, the schools are part of people, but I moved here because of everybody who's sitting in this audience tonight and a bunch of other people that I knew in Vermont. I worked with foresters for a long time. dozens and dozens of them, and it was the richness of their thought, regardless of their political stripe, and the depth of their character, whatever school they went to, that attracted me to Vermont. And Brattleboro put out a warrant for Dick Cheney's arrest 2 years ago. That started but the reality is, it was the people, okay? And it was the independence of their thought, not the privacy of their thought, the independence of their thought. Okay? And that was what brought us here. And that's been the major thing that I love about Vermont, is how people think and the richness of people's minds here. It's not that racially diverse, right? But people think diversely here. They think deeply. And that's what's important here. If I pull out two $5 bills and I say, you can have either one of them, that's free choice, right? That's choice. If I say, you can have either one of them, that's not the same choice, okay? I think that the couple people who came up here and spoke about special needs people and what they need, okay, and the schools need to meet that, that's very valid. I don't think anybody in this room wants to see anybody shunted out, okay? But to achieve that does not mean stripping a bunch of other people, including my kids, because we're in that razor-thin margin where if the costs go up, we're bumped. And I think the school loves our kids and the kids love the school, okay? But we get bumped, just like a lot of other people will. And Vermonters are capable of doing much better in figuring out a solution to this. And as I tell my kids, you have to do your homework to do well. And I respectfully, I don't know that you did a good enough job of that.
My name is Heather Araba, and I am a very concerned parent. My daughter goes to MEMS, and my son goes to Long Trail School. We moved here from the San Francisco Bay Area in 2006. One of the major factors in our decision to relocate here was the option of school choice and the quality of available school choices. I realize that Rule 2200 does not limit school choice, but by very design would no doubt severely limit the choices available. I am a huge believer in public education. However, one size does not fit all. We chose to enroll our son in Long Trail School as he had social and academic needs that were not able to be addressed by the public school. Long Trail is an outstanding example of how an independent school can so positively impact a child. Our son transformed from a very socially and academically withdrawn student who suffered from anxiety ulcers into an enthusiastic and hopeful member of the community who wants to volunteer and make a difference, wants to play team sports, and is striving to make the honor roll. Our independent school offers choices to all students through the uniqueness, their outstanding programs, and ability to create and foster community with global spirit. Rule 2200 would place an undue financial burden on our independent schools, forcing many to close. It's highly alarming that the State Board of Education, without completing any financial impact studies and without a public vote, can enact such sweeping and catastrophic blows to our schools and as a result to our children and communities. Our independent schools are a treasure, one that draws many families to the state. Enacting Law 2200 would seriously undermine the attractiveness of Vermont to families and be a shattering blow to our property values and high-quality public and independent education. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian Murphy. I am a student at Long Trail School. I'm a senior this year. I am also the president of Student Council. I just want to say before I start, my brother and I both attend Long Trail School, and we would not be able to without the help that we get from the state with school choice. So I want to start with a brief history lesson. So way back when, before complex societies existed, we had people working in fields. We had hunter-gatherers. But to be able to progress to a complex society, we had to be able to specialize our labor. We had to have each people working on an individual project, each person able to do what they could do best. And I feel like this applies very directly to this whole decision of school choice. We cannot have, by definition, one school that fits everybody, the most obvious example being size. One person who works well in a large school cannot work well in a small size school. So it is naive to think that one size or one school can fit all students. So the other point I just want to make really quickly is that those who are pro-school choice in this case are not anti-public school. We don't think that public education is bad. We simply think that each student and each family should have the right to choose where they can get the best education possible. So one of the last things I want to say is many of the people who have been up here presenting in favor of school choice and against Rule 2200 have been using a handful of the same arguments. And though opponents may say we are effectively beating a dead horse, to use a rather perverse analogy, I think that it's not beating a dead horse, because we are saying these arguments again and again and no one is listening. It's effectively we're talking to a rock. So as you hear from the rest of us and those who have spoken even before me, I want to leave you with a quote from political scientist Ray Wolfinger. He said, "The plural of anecdote is data." So I say my story, and each of us have said our stories, and together that creates a collective set of data. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. All children are different, and so are schools. What works for one individual may not work for another. Special needs and accommodations played a huge factor in our decision in choosing Long Trail. My son couldn't be happier with the school he chose. It's been the right fit for him. The transformation that we have seen in our son has been amazing. His struggles with homework and grades is no longer a constant. When visiting schools a few years ago, we knew we needed a change, a school that could meet our child's needs. We needed small classes, shorter length of classes, and wonderful teachers that would be able to teach in unique ways. He receives help from a language specialist that keeps him on task and organized. Grades are up and communication between teachers and support are a constant. My son has thrived in this environment and he loves his school. 13 years ago, my husband and I made the decision to move to this area. My husband attended BBA years ago and had raved about the quality of education he received and wanted to have our children experience the same wonderful opportunities he had. We ruled out any towns that didn't have school choice. My son is his second year at Long Trail. My daughter is very excited to attend BBA next year, and my third is enjoying her time at MEMS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Anderson. Vermont voters have approved school choice since 1869. The legislature has obliged with legislation enacting school choice for the last 148 years. Section 4 of Act 46, passed in 2014, expressly preserves school choice. 90 towns in Vermont are choice towns, and they send 64 members to the House of Representatives. That's 43% of the total House membership. Over 9,200 kids attend independent schools out of a total student population of 92,000. That means about 10% of all Vermont students attend independent schools. So a lot of parents were surprised when the State Board of Education proposed Rule 2200. The rule says in a nutshell that independent schools must become public schools. Now I grant you, Rule 2200 seems innocent enough. After all, what's wrong with independent schools having to comply with the same requirements as public schools? Why shouldn't independent schools offer the same 13 categories of special education services as the public schools? Why shouldn't independent schools have to accept every student just like the public schools? Why shouldn't independent school faculty have to be licensed by the state of Vermont for the faculty in public schools? In short, why shouldn't independent schools be just like the public schools? Wouldn't that be best for the kids? And after all, isn't this really what's about best for the kids? Well, here's what's wrong with Act 2200, or with Rule 2200. The rule saddles independent schools with mandates that they can't afford, and it drives them out of business. Rule 2200 dramatically increased operating costs for all independent schools and expressly conditions the receipt of public tuition on strict compliance with the rule. That means the 38% of Vermont independent schools that receive public tuition money lose it if they don't comply with the rule. Independent schools have to charge tuition to cover their costs. They don't have public funding, I'll be through in a minute, to balance their budgets each year to remain open. The more expensive the cost of complying with state mandates, the more difficulty keeping tuition affordable for families. The board understands independent schools will close down if they can't cover their costs. So where does the board get this authority to enact this one-size-fits-all rule? Not from the legislature. The board's rulemaking authority is limited to implementing statutes passed by the legislature. There are no Vermont statutes that require or even suggest independent schools must comply with all the standards imposed on public schools. The Vermont legislature has had 169 years to enact such a statute, and it never has. And there's a reason for that. The legislature and Vermont voters want independent schools to be different from public schools. Even Governor Shumlin doesn't want Rule 2200, but the board just won't listen. So why is the board so obstinate about Rule 2200? Is it to improve independent schools? My two kids attend public independent schools and have graduated from two schools. Both schools have great teachers, good peer group, a safe learning environment, everyone graduates, and nearly everyone goes to college. Nothing needs improving there. Maybe we can answer this question by figuring out who benefits from Rule 2200.
Sir, you're approaching 5 minutes.
Not one more and I'm done. Not the 9,200 kids who can't attend the schools they want to. Not the parents who have sacrificed to get their kids a better education. No, the groups that benefit from Rule 2200 are the teachers' unions and the Vermont School Boards Association. They have empty seats to fill, and shutting down independent schools fill those seats. How else can they justify their school budgets? The way I see it, Rule 2200 is just a naked power grab that's dressed up as concern for our kids. And that, my friends, is one major dress code violation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Aiden. When I was younger, I couldn't read. I was testing 2 full years behind the other kids in my grade. My special education teachers would pull me out of my regular classroom in middle of class, and everyone knew exactly why I was leaving. I was embarrassed and wanted to fit in, but never really could, and the other kids made fun of me. By the time we moved to Vermont, after years of special education, I had tested out of my IEP and no longer required special services, but I still needed some accommodations to do my best. My first day at Long Trail, every one of my teachers knew what I needed and provided that help. My teachers know how to work with all different types of students and learners in the same classroom, so we all get what we need. At Long Trail, I feel so confident as a student. I have teachers who support me, friends who understand me, and I feel like I'm part of a family. I know all of the kids in the school, and because of doing theater, I am friends with kids in all of the grades, even though I'm only in 7th. I absolutely love school and look forward to going every morning. Not only is it a great environment, but for someone that was 2 years behind when I was in 1st grade, I am now testing above grade level. I know I'm doing so well because of the unique school that Long Trail is. The thought of having to go to another school is terrifying. I'm doing so well because I am in the right school for me. Some kids want bigger schools, and that is great, but I know that a large school would be the wrong fit for me personally. Please don't take away our ability to have independent schools. We are your future, and you should want us to be you should want us to do the best that we can. Limiting our schools in any way limits us. Let us choose where we can thrive, and let our independent schools continue to provide us with the incredible education they provide. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tyler. I'm a 10th grader at Long Trail, and before I explain my actual thoughts on Rule 2600 or whatever it is, allow me to tell you what my story is. When 8th grade came around, it was time for me to decide on a high school. a decision that I never realized would have been so important. There were many things I needed to know in order for me to choose the school in which I was going to. This was really important, as choosing the school would help me develop more as a student. It would make sure I got the education I needed. Not that either choice was bad, mind you, but people learn in different ways, and if they don't learn the way they think, then it is harder for them to learn. This is the reason having school choice has helped me as a student. And while I know you said that it won't be taken away, school choice, I assure you that it very much is in many ways. As good as BBA is, the longer classes weren't really my thing, and I couldn't really stand sitting in the classroom for that long. But as I went to Long Trail, I was absolutely impressed with what they were able to do. The school helped me improve in so many areas I once found challenging and helped me improve on my talents. Being an artistic school more than an athletic school, it was perfect in helping those with musical, artistic, and acting talents. Myself being a musician, I fit right in. It was, and well, not only that, but my biggest weakness before entering the school, writing, has now become one of my biggest strengths. In fact, I'm actually doing creative writing right now. And while I know that I may go to an artistic school, it is very important that other people who want to do more athletic things with their life get to go to an athletic school. So because of those reasons, and because if this gets approved, I won't be able to go to Long Trail, and that will hinder me as a student, and I won't get the education I need.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Hi, I know a lot of these points keep being reiterated, but I think until the proposed changes are dropped, you clearly need to be hearing them over and over. So my name's Sarah Crisp, and I moved here with my husband and 4 children about 2 years ago, specifically because of school choice. We literally pulled out a school choice map, and that was how we decided where we wanted to live. And we chose Danby, where school choice begins in 7th grade. We visited all the different schools that were options for our children. In the end, they each individually chose Long Trail, and for very different reasons. Our oldest wanted to be able to get an IB diploma, and Long Trail is the only school in Vermont that offers the International Baccalaureate program. Our next daughter loved the small family-like environment with an emphasis on creative expression and a strong focus on individuality. Our son, who had always hated school, tried out Long Trail and immediately felt comfortable and actually liked it. And our youngest fell in love with the theater program, and as soon as she began, came out of her shell in the most incredible of ways. I could tell you for hours why Long Trail is an incredible school, but that's not the point. The point is that it is the right school for our children, and every child deserves the opportunity to seek and find the right school for him or her. My friends outside of Vermont are shocked that our kids love school. It is an accepted norm for kids to hate school. And yet school is where our children spend the majority of their waking hours. School has an enormous influence on who they will become as people, intellectually, socially, and emotionally. How tragic that we are discussing rules that could drastically hurt independent schools, possibly forcing them to close. How tragic that we are discussing hurting the very places that we and our children have chosen. How tragic that we want to limit our children rather than expand their options and their abilities. There is no one school that fits everyone, but every student can find the one school that fits him or her, but only when they have different schools to choose from. The proposed amendments to Rule Series 2200 are incredibly detrimental to our independent schools and therefore to our children. Please reconsider them, and I beg you to do everything in your power to ensure that independent schools can continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gio Honeyford. I come from South Royalton, I'm a school board member there, and I'm also the president of the Vermont School Board Association. And I would like to speak on 3 points on behalf of the Vermont School Board Association. The first one actually doesn't pertain to the rules, but it pertains to something I heard here today. We take positions in the Vermont School Board Association called resolutions, And one of the resolutions we have, if you can look it up in our documents online, is we actually value independent schools. 90 of our members represent towns that have choice. So we have it right in our documents that independent schools play an integral role in educating Vermont students. So I can assure you our goal is not to eliminate independent schools. When I look at the rules, I'm not saying they're a perfect set of rules because they have a lot of impacts on a lot of people. But there's two specific things I'd like to speak to. The first one is an equity issue. It's about open enrollment. We all know our situation where we are, and we know the things on the ground here and what affects Burton. But when you look across the state, not every independent school operates the same way. We have independent schools in the state of Vermont that pick and choose students. You could be in a choice town, and when it comes time for you to make a choice of what school you want to go to, you can apply to some of these independent schools, and they will not take your student if they don't want to. That's not choice. The second thing I would speak to is the special education issue. These are a protected class of citizen in the state of Vermont. They're kids with disabilities. They're protected just as people of race, ethnic origin, religion are protected. And there are schools in the state of Vermont, independent schools, who do not take these students. Burton apparently is not one of them, because you guys are really proud of this place, and rightfully so. So what I would urge everybody in here to think about is how this impacts other people, not just here. It's not a matter of just throwing out all of these rules and saying, oh, things were perfect before, because they're not perfect across the state. Having said that, I do have a letter that I like to give to the school board here. It's from Outright Vermont, and they are also concerned about the accessibility of students in schools. I'm going to present that to you.
Thank you.
Asher Crisp, Danby, Vermont. I work as a technology futurist, and I'm always looking at complex systems and design thinking. And one of the things that we learn in this particular field is that there's nothing that kills creativity more than conformity, more than creating homogeneity. And what we really need to do in our public interest here in the state of Vermont and invest in design diversity. That's what actually creates competition, it creates innovation, and it fuels the educational promise of the future that we want to have. I was impressed upon growing up in Brattleboro, Vermont, by my grandfather who was a lawyer in Newfane, how sometimes decision making that happens at 50,000 feet from centralized bureaucracies don't see how it really affects things on the ground, the particulars of the human faces and the actual situations, because it's done from afar. And we really need to consider that when we look at all of these different independent schools and try to impose this kind of grid of rulemaking on top of them. When you have systems that are very much interdependent, you tend to get gridlock. And the case in point is actually the United States nuclear arsenal. Many people don't know this, but most of the United States nuclear arsenal runs on floppy disks, believe it or not. They're supposed to be upgraded next year. It's only been 40 years going. And so the question is, why does it take so long when things are so interdependent to change, to innovate, to grow, to be transformed? It's because of the interdependency. So what we really need is more of a modular system. And modular is where independent really means independent, where there are different rules, different models, and they're not all woven together in one homogeneous framework. So I would strongly urge you to not adopt these new rules and to keep our choices between schools radically diverse and to perhaps even diversify them more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Beth O'Donnell. My husband and I chose to move to Manchester 8 years ago to raise and educate our 4 children. Our family runs the gamut of needs and abilities, and my children, all of them, have been greatly served by the current educational system we have here in Manchester in both the public and independent schools. And if the State Board of Education has as its top priority the best and most equal playing field for all our students to grow as learners and to reach their full potential, then you will not put forward the rules that have been proposed. I'm going to speak specifically to special needs and to the incorrect idea that every school needs to be able to support all students. From my personal experience, I can tell you that the greatest gift that was given to my family was when Long Trail told us that they did not have the support system to help my child with his particular needs. We worked with our amazing BRSU special education team here, and we got all the testing and information that we needed to make the best choice. And our local options, both public and independent, were not the best choice for our son. Because you see, when your child's life is on the line, whether it be physical or otherwise, you search for the best and nothing less. Unfortunately, in our small state, we do not have all the answers, even in the public educational system, because we simply do not have the critical mass of students with particular needs that can allow for a complete and total educational experience for every child. For some children, inclusion is actually exclusion, because their educational and social and emotional needs aren't truly met. If you want to do something in the best interest of all learners, you will promote and support schools, all schools, public and independent, to acknowledge what they are best at supporting and what they need help with. Sorry. Long Trail, really?
Finish.
All right. Long Trail and the BRSU SPED department helped our family to understand what environment our son needed to be a successful learner. You would not demand a hospital to treat a patient when they know that the more experienced or expert medical care for a particular illness was offered at a different hospital. You would congratulate all involved for saving a life and doing the best by that patient. I ask you to do the same in this case. Trying to require every school, public or independent, to be the best option for all students in our small state of Vermont is not economically or educationally viable.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank you for coming down here to listen to us. I know it's been a long night for you, and I crossed everything off my list that people had already said, so I don't want to repeat that. One thing that I want to impress upon you, and you probably see this a lot more up in the northern part of the state near Burlington, but there's a lot of people here who have come here from major urban centers, professionals that have taken drastic cuts in terms of their income to come live here in Vermont. And as a couple of people have stated before, we were the same way. We were in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we had decided that we were going to do a nationwide search and find the best schools that could educate our children. And what we found was that we didn't want private schools. We wanted diversity. We wanted really good public schools, and we also wanted choice. We found that here and chose the town that we moved to from California purely based on the ability to have school choice. And it has turned out wonderfully 18 years later. We've seen this, we've seen the diversity. This community in particular is incredible in terms of the amount of choice that's here. And I know it's not the same across the entire state. But if there's going to be any change that's enacted, this gem is not something that you want to lose. You want to protect it, and you want any changes to come through the legislature. And so I urge you to keep Rule Series 2200 as it is right now, and keep more of us coming here in their 20s, in their 30s, more young people bringing their families here. You have a gem.
Thank you.
My name is Pam Pearson, and my son is a student at Long Trail School. I want to say first, I am a product of the public school system. I'm a strong supporter of public education. Public schools gave me the grounding that eventually sent me out into the world as a diplomat for 20 years representing the United States, and I'm proud of that public school background. I always thought my kids would go to public schools, period. Second, we moved to Vermont precisely because of the rich mixture of independent and public schools here. Vermont has not just a national but an international reputation. I came here at the recommendation of other Foreign Service officers who, when they left the service, came here specifically for the educational system here. And you really don't want to mess with that, as the previous speaker said. But still, as a parent, I've found that children are not cookie cutter, and public schools do not serve every child best. And the thing I find most ironic about the proposed changes to the rule is the way it would negatively impact students with special educational needs. My son would qualify in at least 2 of the 12 educational categories. 4 times I tried to get those needs met in public schools through the IEP and 504 processes. And 4 times I found those efforts fought with tooth and nail. It is a myth that public schools meet those needs in all cases. And I think the representative of Vermont Family Network, with whom we have also worked, would agree with this. Special needs students are excluded from public schools too because the barriers are raised to our students and it forces them out. 3 times then I moved to the independent schools, and there he was welcomed with open arms. He has been welcomed now for the 3rd time as a high school student at Long Trail. And it has just been amazing. He's only been there for 3 months, and the commitment of the teachers to his educational needs has been fantastic. Adopting these rules will not benefit students with special needs. It will hurt them, and I beg you, please, not to change these rules.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Meg Stern. I'm a resident of Springfield. I have 2 special needs kids. One goes to the Inspire School in Brattleboro for autism. Another goes to the Compass School in Westminster. I've battled IEP and 504 meetings and staff and teachers to get what my children need for many, many, many years. As a result, the older son, who had to carry around his 504 in his pocket because the teachers and the staff didn't realize what was written on it and wouldn't accommodate him. He had to learn to advocate for himself. As a result, we chose the Compass School for high school. He's thriving. I can't imagine what his life would be like without the opportunity to go attend an independent school in this state. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joanne Unruh, and I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Council of Special Education Administrators, an organization that serves special education administrators, including those in independent schools that serve special populations across the state. We applaud the support your local schools enjoy. May that continue. We also believe in a continuum of services for children, and that one size does not fit all. And we do trust in parents to make the best possible decisions for their children, the choices that are available to them. Having worked in this field for 45 years, I'm aware of how far we have come and how far we still have to go. There are families in this process that do not have voice, and they are unlikely to appear in such a forum. And I think it's very important that we all remember that not everyone has a voice in a forum such as this, that we all have a long way to go, whether it's public schools or independent schools, to really having diverse environments and to really applaud the lives of all children with disabilities. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. My name is Max Barrows, and I am an outreach director of Green Mountain Self-Advocates. We are a disability rights organization for youth and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. On behalf of more than 600 people with disabilities who are members of our organizations, we support the State Board of Education's rules requiring independent schools that take public money to have open enrollment policies and to provide special education services. I grew up in Vermont. I am a person with autism and of color, so I know what it can feel like to be treated like I am different and do not fit in. However, for the most part, I had a positive experience in school. I did feel included when I attended public schools in Vermont. The schools I went to embraced the Right to Education Act that was passed back in the 70s. I got a good education. It prepared me for the career that I have now as a disability rights advocate. I drove almost 3 hours today to attend this hearing because I feel compelled to speak on behalf of other students like me. This is a civil rights issue. The laws of our country clearly state that publicly funded schools cannot discriminate against students with disabilities. I find it extremely odd that right now in 2016 we are even having this conversation. In 1976, the US Supreme Court said private schools can't deny a student's admission based on their race. And in this case, the schools didn't receive any public money. But we are here today to testify about rules for private schools that do use public funding. I understand the strong desire of parents to keep their kids in schools they feel are providing a good education. The position of the disability community is clear. Students with disabilities have the right to enroll with their peers in any private school that is funded with public education dollars. If private schools want to pick and choose who they accept and who they educate, then they should not take public funding. The civil rights of Vermont students and their families must be protected. So please keep this in mind when you're moving forward. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
My name is Jan Gata, and I come here as a father of 3 children, 2 atypical students and 1 student with special needs. My youngest daughter is in 1st grade and she has Down syndrome. A year and a half ago, I was lucky enough to get a dream job up at Stratton Mountain, and I relocated my family up here. My wife, who has a master's degree in education, did all of the research on what is the best place for us educationally for our kids, because this is where we were going to settle and be finally done moving around. It would be a disservice for my youngest daughter to say that SMS has to accept her. They would do nothing for her, absolutely nothing. That's a specialty school for college prep and ski. Long Trail might do something for her. BBA, when we called, she was in kindergarten, I called BBA, my wife called BBA. Within a few hours, the special education counselor at BBA called us back in Pennsylvania to say, this is what you want to do, this is where you want to be, this is what school choice means to you. Means your daughter probably won't go to SMS. What is she going to do at SMS? I want the best for my child. I don't need you to tell me what's the best for her. Do you have a child with special needs? Do you have a child with Down syndrome? I do. I live the struggle every day, and so does my brother, her brother and sister. Maybe one of them will go to SMS. Maybe my daughter or son will go for the International Baccalaureate program. But I know that moving to this community, being accepted the way we have been, including my youngest daughter, I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Thank you, Chairman Morse. Thank you, Board. I'm going to cut right to the aspect of my report that separates me from most of the folks here, in the sense that, yes, I live in Peru, and our 3 kids went to schools, 3 different independent schools, but my new role is Deputy Director, Commission on Independent Schools with the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. And currently we accredit dozens of independent schools here in Vermont, and that's a relationship that we've worked on over the years, and it's very strong, and I'm quite encouraged about where it's headed. The accreditation process, just to explain briefly, is that all schools every 10 years, all independent schools every 10 years will go through a self-study where they basically look at their mission and look at the standards that we've set. And then they are visited by a peer review and ultimately receive accreditation or continued accreditation and move through. Currently, there are 94 schools in the state that are independent schools. We accredit 35 of them at this point and are encouraged by the offer that we might push out and accredit more schools, but honestly, it would be cost prohibitive for all parties. At the same time, we are advocates for independence, and the rules as written do, in our estimation, challenge independent schools. I'm not interested in, I hope that this challenge can be avoided because I believe in the quality of these independent schools, and I also believe in the quality of the Vermont education. Thank you.
My name is Orland Campbell. I once frolicked in Montpelier in the legislature, and I've taught at Burn-Burton, and I also was a trustee at Burn-Burton, no longer. I had two kids who went to Burn-Burton and one kid who did not, and one of the things that concerns me here in terms of choice is independent schools outside the state of Vermont. The way I read the rules, as you put them, if you get public funds and you send your kid to a school outside of the state of Vermont, that school has to comply with the same regulations. If that is in fact true, if I am reading your proposed rule correctly, then that strictly and severely limits the choices available to people in towns like Manchester and Dorset and the areas that have choice. Because many of the schools that are chosen out of state by parents who do send their kids out of state will not meet those categories. So you're limiting the choice there tremendously.
Hi, my name is Janelle Kittredge, and thank you for staying this long and listening to everyone's story. Mine is similar. I'm actually a graduate of BBS at the time in 1992. I have 4 daughters. These are 2 that should be in bed, but it's important to them to be here for this, as this would directly affect them. I am an emergency medicine physician, as is my husband, and we chose to come back to the town where I went to school so our kids could have the same education that I had. This school and the schools in Manchester propelled me to medical school, to residency, to come back to this town to help the community. On a macro level, I want to educate all of the kids in our community, not just Manchester, all of Vermont, so that we can increase the economy of this state, bring back people that grew up here, so that we can support our state. We have an amazing education system here. Education is extraordinarily important, and not to downplay anyone that has a child with special needs. I had a brother who was severely dyslexic, who went to school here at MEMS, who did not get what he needed, had to go to a private school. But I think also having kids that are special, extraordinarily bright, is also a class of special needs. We need to have schools that can lift those kids up. And not all schools can handle those kinds of kids. Schools in Manchester can handle the diversity of all of these kids that need help with their reading, their math, but can also propel our brilliant kids to come back and help our state. I'm gonna put my kids to bed.
Great.
Thank you.
My name is Curtis Reed. I'm the Executive Director of Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity. We are a 20-year-old social justice organization that represents the interests of about 30,000 Vermonters. We spent our first decade assisting individuals across a wide array of social identities to defend their civil rights. And this last decade focused on policy issues. We support the State Board of Education's proposed rules that close the loophole whereby independent schools that receive public funds can choose to discriminate against students with disabilities. As not to paint a too broad a brushstroke, there are independent schools using public funds to meet the needs of students with disabilities, and we applaud the ones, as in the case of B&B and A, who do. However, this is the exception to what's happening throughout the state. Vermont independent schools are not obliged or not obligated to accept public funds. The supply and demand argument of educational options advanced by opponents skillfully obscures the fundamental issue of civil rights. And while the issue brought forth today focuses on students with disabilities, who will it be tomorrow? Whereas today, independent schools that accept public funds can choose to deny services to students with disabilities, what is there to stop them tomorrow from denying services to students of color, LGBTQ, and others whose social identities they find incompatible with their stated mission? Again, independent schools are not obligated to accept public funds. However, independent schools accepting public funds should not be allowed to cherry pick the students they want to serve because they perceive said students are compatible with their educational doctrines. Independent schools have the right to remain independent, but just not with public funds. We fully support your efforts in this matter. Thank you.
My name is Amanda Williams, and I am on one of your lists. I'm a parent of 2 Burn-Burton students, one former student, one current student. I moved here 2 years ago, pulled them out of Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia, one of the highest regarded public school systems, to move them here to Vermont, primarily because of the special needs of both children, one who is highly academically gifted and the other who is academically gifted but also on the autism spectrum. I have had the privilege of working as a substitute teacher, and I can tell you the creative solutions that are meeting the needs of a diverse community of the children in this area is amazing. But I want to tell you a success story as well. When I was down in Virginia, I sat in the 8th grade IEP transition to high school meeting for my son and listened as they advocated sending him an hour away from his home school to go to the special education wing of a different high school. This is in the public school system, where they were going to deny him access to honors classes, to college preparatory classes. Last week, my junior, who is a member of the wrestling team, the cross-country team, played on the JV baseball team, is a member of the chorus and a frequent soloist, was also accepted into the National Honor Society, and he is headed to college. I'm an educator. I'm a substitute teacher. I work at the tutorial center here in town. We meet the needs of these kids. I also believe in teaching kids, all kids, and access to schools. Maybe your rules need to be rethought. Maybe you need to come and visit us and see what we do here at BBA. And I say we because it's parents, community, teachers. I'm not sure where I am with time. I thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Ziegler, and I'm from Pittsfield, Vermont. So we're going to take the conversation a little north from here. My son is a freshman at the Sharon Academy, and I also have another son that goes to a public school. My son at the Sharon Academy began his academic career in a public school. He attended public school from pre-K through 2nd grade. In 2nd grade, I was being called several times per week to come and pick him up from school because I couldn't deal with his challenges. Sometimes he had only been there an hour. He was evaluated and diagnosed with ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. I remember the day vividly that I got the call from the LEA and she said to me, "He can't come back here." And I said, "You mean tomorrow?" She said, "No, ever." My husband and I scrambled to find a school that would accept him. In the meantime, the supervisory union thought that it was acceptable to put him at the supervisory union with a mentor, a one-on-one, until we were able to find a school for him. We settled on a therapeutic alternative school, and he finished out his 2nd grade year and continued attending through 6th grade. They met his needs from a behavioral perspective. However, academically and socially, he missed out on a lot. When it came time for middle school, everyone agreed he was ready to move on. We looked at several public schools, and he just didn't feel comfortable with the size. When he looked at the Sharon Academy, he felt very comfortable. He applied to TSA Middle School and was accepted. They worked with him one-on-one and got him caught up academically, especially in math. He went from the lowest math class to the most advanced. He also worked one-on-one with a mentor on his executive functioning skills, and today he is a successful freshman, due in part to his hard work and the supportive Sharon Academy staff. As part of his IEP, he continues to work with a mentor. He still has challenging days, but the staff continue to help him work through these days. He has grown both socially and academically. I'm going to leave you with 3 points. Public schools do not meet the needs of every student. TSA knows my child intimately and is working with him daily so that he can meet his goals. And without school choice, we wouldn't be able to send him to TSA, and I'm not sure where he would be. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chairman Morse, and all of the guests here this evening. I think I get the long distance award. I work at 101 Barclay at BNY Mellon in New York City, and my daughter attends school here by choice. My daughter is your presidential scholarship winner for the state of Vermont this year, was named Friday. She's also the student president for the school and is very proud to have attended here. She was invited to attend Exeter and said that she wanted to be in Vermont. She and her mom live here in Manchester while I live in New York City so that I can earn enough money so that she can attend. I want us to be very careful when we start to look at social engineering as an answer to change and an answer to transformation. The most recent election tells us that the nation is rejecting the concept of social engineering, and the results of our major cities, Baltimore, Chicago, look at them. We've done everything we can, we're trying our best. We really don't ultimately get to equality because not all of us are exactly equal. I'm not an athlete like any of these amazing students that were here and contributed their skills. I'm not the scholar that my daughter is. I'm not a leader like you, Steve. But I do my best every day to contribute what I can. And in a very unequal way, I'm more than happy to contribute to this society, and I don't expect you to give up your chair because I want to sit there. I want to thank all of you for your kindness tonight. I want to thank everyone for their patience and attention, but we've got to be very careful that we don't destroy something that's very precious for Vermont, and that's the amazing educational program you have here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Lizzie Brown Lindenberg from Arlington, Vermont. I am a product of school choice. I'm a native Vermonter. I'm a proud graduate of St. Johnsbury Academy. Go Hilltoppers! Which maybe I shouldn't say in this gym, but I'm from a tiny town in the Northeast Kingdom with a K-6 school, no middle school, and no high school. It is thanks to school choice that I received the excellent education I did, and I am grateful. I believe in choice. I've taught at Maple Street School for 16 years. My students come from a range of backgrounds, including choice towns. I've seen over and over the magic that happens when a child thrives in a school that's the right match for him or her. About special education, in the years I've been at Maple Street, we have been struggling to get better. We will work with people. We have, in good faith, been trying to improve what we can offer students, and we have done a lot in the time I've been there. It pains me that my own son, who's in 2nd grade, who loves school, his school is, I perceive, under threat when we have been in good faith trying to improve what we can offer people. My family does not live in a choice town, but my son attends Maple Street, which is supported by many families from choice towns and not from choice towns, people who've made sacrifices like my family has in order to make sure that their child can attend the best match for them. I know great educators across Vermont in large and small schools, public and private, and the variety of schools in Vermont is a tremendous strength. And I see the rule changes as not providing equality of opportunity, but limiting educational options for our children, which could be devastating. Thank you.
My name is Randy Coulis. I'm a parent of 2 9th graders here at Burton Academy and a 5th grader at Manchester Elementary Middle School. I moved back to Vermont just over 3 years ago to ensure that my children were offered an excellent education in a socially just setting. I'm incredibly proud of the education they've received thus far at MEMS and at BBA. I deeply appreciate and value the choice we have in the BRSU. I'm also the Director of Student Services here at the BRSU, which offers me a unique perspective with regard to Rule 2200. The choice that so many people are here to support does not exist for all families in our community. I have very difficult, emotional conversations with parents who are realizing that while they felt that choice would empower them to choose the best school for their child, the reality is that no school shoulders the responsibility to educate them. Parents realize that their child with a disability is not given a chance because they're being denied access at the schoolhouse door. We need to recognize that today there is inequity in choice. And this is gonna make me go over 2 minutes, but we've heard testimony tonight of how many children have grown and prospered and thrived when they've had the opportunity to attend schools that potentially may not have taken them before. That was incredibly powerful for me. As a public school employee, my responsibility is to every family within our supervisory union. I'm proud that we as a community would not tolerate the marginalization of students based on race, religion, LGBT status, gender, socioeconomic status, and other protected categories. Yet we find it acceptable to do so with individuals with disabilities. The families who live in our community who have been affected are likely not here, although I have seen a few of them here, but I believe many of them have already gone. They've often led a solitary journey trying to reconcile what they've experienced. They feel disempowered and devalued. There's an assumption being made that complying with an inclusive set of regulations will minimize the educational experience for some. I encourage us all to recognize that history has proven that when we embrace the diversity of a community, the impact is positive. Including students with disabilities in our schools is not an adverse experience. It is an opportunity for us all to be better.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Though, this rule is not an all or nothing proposal. You've heard testimony from Mr. Deere, from Mr. Tajin. I think Ms. Manning is going to be coming up soon. I encourage the State Board of Education to problem solve with communities such as ours to address each section of the rule. Allow us to work together to help you, to find a balance between preserving choice and ensuring that all students are afforded equity and educational experience.
I'm Kim Wooler. I'm currently a business owner. I'm a former public school administrator for Manchester. I was instrumental in starting the Mountain School where all children are accepted, and I currently serve on the Stratton Foundation board. I am here tonight to oppose the changes because I believe that they interfere with the quality of educational experiences our kids get in this area. I think it interferes with equity, it decreases it, and it definitely has a negative impact on the economics of families, schools, and our community. I've listened to a lot of youth this evening, and I think one of the things that stands out for me is I feel like these rules are directed and make the assumption that all of us come from great means. That must be the case because we have kids in independent schools that do serve all the kids that attend there. Anything you do to change the quality of a school like BBA, I question why are we trying to change and harm a school that has outstanding student outcomes, outstanding graduation rate, outstanding post-graduation involvement on the part of its students. No matter how much you take those away from a BBA or another independent school that serves all of the area communities as their public school, that will not fix whatever independent schools you have concerns about. On the issue of equity, one of the things that's most evident in the area's independent schools is how much we serve a great capacity of the individual needs of kids of all different needs and all levels of income. That's not present simply by being in a public school. And finally, financially, when people cannot afford to pay the tuition for a school like BBA or the Mountain School, I want to know where you're getting the money so we can finally build high schools that have never existed in this area of Vermont, and how we are actually going to have equity for our families who need so much and benefit because their kids actually attend quality schools. And they attend schools no matter how little their income might be.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Brody. I live in Winhall. I'm speaking in support of independent schools and opposed to these rules. I speak to you both as a parent with a child in an independent school who has benefited from the character education that is the necessary focus of his education. I also speak to you as a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I care for patients in both Bennington and Rutland County. in a diverse range of socioeconomic backgrounds and school settings. I have many patients on IEPs, 504s, and have been part of a lot of different school situations. I've seen when special ed works and when it doesn't. I have patients who have specialized interests and also superior IQs. They are not served in the public school setting, and they get their needs in an independent school in a way that doesn't get fit in a public school. These rules also create discrimination about poor kids who have their specialized interests or needs met in an independent school. My child probably would still go to an independent school because I can pay for it, but all of my poor patients, they would not be able to afford to go. I also want to encourage you all to speak more plainly and show respect to us as a community. For you to say that this is not going to affect choice is disingenuous. Please let us as Please, as Vermonters, let us lead the way in speaking plainly to each other. So, instead of looking at regulating independent schools, I really, and remember, I come from healthcare. Regulation has gutted the heart of medicine. So instead of that, I want you to focus your power and your responsibility on improving special ed in the public school setting. I hope you know, I'm sure you do, there's an exponential increase in students with social, emotional, and developmental disabilities. Please use your power to help them, not hurt others.
Thank you so much for your time tonight and listening to all of our opinions and voices. I'm Jayani Brinkerhoff. I live in Sandgate, and my husband and my daughter and I moved here in 2014 into a house that's been in my husband's family for over 60 years. We came here not just because of school choice, but because of the choice of schools in this community. We saw an ad in a local paper for an open house at the downtown school, and were immediately drawn to the progressive education model, which I actually had no experience or knowledge of previously. What struck me that day was how clearly I realized how important it was to find a school where they could understand my daughter through a whole child approach, specific to her social, emotional, and educational needs, and that my daughter would be empowered to be an active participant in what she learned and how she learns it. In our third year as part of the amazing school community at the downtown school, we have been delighted at our daughter's love of her school community, her teachers, her peers, and just the way she approaches each day of her school life. She actually laments that the weekends are here. The proposed amendments that the state wants to impose on independent schools would be devastating to all independent schools, but even more so to a smaller school like the downtown school that is still in its infancy and developing its infrastructure. The downtown school would not be able to support the unachievable requirements, and it would effectively render the school inoperable. My family and my school community respectfully ask that you reconsider the proposed Rule 2200 amendments, that you allow the continuation of independent schools to operate independently of excessive state governance and fulfill the community needs to allow school choice to towns that need it and the unique education approach that these independent schools provide. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, and again, thank you for your time. My name is Alexa Manning, and I am a Manchester resident, parent of a second grader, and the founder and head of school at the downtown school here in Manchester. Thank you. The downtown school is in its third year of existence and provides a progressive education, elementary choice for the children in the Manchester and the Mountains region. Our classroom experience, which I would love to talk about for hours if we had more time, is distinctly different from the classroom experience in the other fine neighboring schools in our region, and offers families another opportunity to find a perfect educational fit for their child. Our school has grown from 10 students our first year to 21 students our second year to 31 students this year, a growth pattern that shows a strong desire for and support of a progressive education choice in our community. We have also created 5 full-time jobs and 5 part-time jobs, and will ultimately create approximately 15 high-quality full-time jobs as we grow to our final pre-kindergarten through 8th grade size over the next 5 years. The ability for parents to exercise their school choice is critical to the very existence of our school, and losing access to sending town students, which will likely happen if these rules amendments come into effect, will have a devastating impact upon our school. Publicly funded students currently represent 26% of our student body and 34% of our total tuition revenue. For kindergarten and above, those numbers are 36% of our student body and 42% of our tuition revenue. Of our students who are not publicly funded, 64% receive financial aid, enabling us to build a socioeconomically diverse school community. School choice is a process that has worked successfully in Vermont for nearly 200 years. The process in its current state with its current rules works well and has received support time and time again from the electorate and from our state legislators. This current attempt to drastically change the rules and thereby create hurdles which will cause many independent schools to lose their ability to accept publicly funded students tears at the very foundation of a sound and successful system of educational choice and educational greatness in our community. If our small school and others around the state are no longer able to accept publicly funded students, we will either be forced to close or be forced to become the very thing that none of us want: a tiny, exclusive private school that can only accept students who can pay full tuition and is fiscally unable to offer financial aid to anyone. That couldn't be farther away from our vision for the downtown school, nor is it the vision of just about any other independent school in Vermont. On behalf of the downtown school, I ask you to please strike all proposed amendments to Rule Series 2200 and re-adopt the existing Series 2200 rules. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Hello, my name is Deb Doherty. I live in Manchester. I have 2 children that attend, well, one graduated in 2011. I have another who is a senior this year. I would like to adopt something from the medical profession, if I might, and it's first, do no harm. I didn't read your entire amendment, but what I did do is go on your site and read your mission statement. And it read to me like the mission statement of a group whose sole purpose was to fit everything into a neat little package and serve it up to the state of Vermont. One of the things that I've noticed here about Burton is that they have the ability to adapt. Over the 8 years that my kids have been here, I have noticed that they pay attention to their curriculum. They are nimble and they adapt. And the classes that they have to offer are progressive. I don't find anything progressive in the rules in packaging up public education to serve it up to independent schools. One of the things that you need to do is take this as part of your investigation. You're not done. You need to go back and you need to take this into consideration. There is an answer to everything that we've heard tonight. Nobody's been wrong here. No one's wrong. We need to solve all the problems for the state and do no harm. I do not support your amendment, and I believe you have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
My name is Erica Marthich. I come to you tonight as an alumni of Burton, a lifelong resident of Manchester and a mother of 3 school-age children. I'm also the Bennington County State's Attorney. I oppose the amendment to SBE Rule 2200 in all of those capacities. As an alumni of Burton, I received a top education. I am from an impoverished family that did not value education in the least. That did not stop me. Burton provided me with a significant opportunity that has made me never feel like a charity case in my own town. Mr. Kennedy ensured that I participate in all of the programs that Burton had to offer, regardless of my parents' inability to pay for that. I consider my education in this town to be the root of all of my successes. As a parent of 3 school-age children that are all attending the same public school, and I choose to send my children to public school, they are all attending that school as I did, and I am concerned not only for my children, but all children, impoverished or not. All children are entitled to the best opportunities available to them, and my strong belief is that only school choice can provide that. As a lifelong resident of Manchester, I value the ability of residents to make informed decisions about whether or not to support an independent school. We all make our own decision on voting day to decide whether we are going to pay tuition to an independent school. Independent thought is the Vermont way. I have read the entire proposed amendment. I am baffled that the board chair would need to write a letter explaining the amendment. The need for an explanation is the first indicator of the deficiency in these proposed rules. Furthermore, as a countywide elected official, I am appalled that such sweeping amendments would be proposed by any body that is not directly elected. The further you are from the electorate, the less accountable you are to your constituents. Further, in my experience working with students from a variety of backgrounds, school choice has been nothing but an asset and has enabled families and educators to meet the needs of all students. I oppose this amendment. It should be set aside in its entirety.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Thank you for your time this evening. I come here wearing many hats. I am a parent, a father of 3 lovely children. I live in the Bennington area. My name is Tim Newbold, and I am also the head of the Village School of North Bennington. So, and my wife also teaches at Long Trail School. So, my wife and I have been involved in education for over 40 years, and in many, many capacities. And my analogies have already been taken by this young lady over here around niches that we all need to fill, and that the ecosystem that we have of our schools, our educational ecosystem, needs to be really diverse, and it's been covered many, many times. But I'm going to tell you a specific story about the Village School and why not everything works. Our school actually meets most of these rule changes. It won't really significantly impact us as a school, but it will impact our brother and sister schools in the area. Those schools do fit very specific roles, and they will not be able to meet all of these rule changes. And we serve over 90% of the tuition families in our area. The other students need other options, and we need to make sure those options stay viable. And by implementing these rule changes, we may lose those schools. The other piece I want to say, one of the strongest arguments against this proposal has been special education, that we need to be able to provide that for every student. I don't necessarily see that as the panacea, because when I walked through the door, one of my first meetings with our SVSU was, they told me we needed to stop referring as many students as we were as an institution. I asked them, were we doing it wrong? Well, no. Were any of our students not meeting the criterion? Well, no. Then why should we stop referring those students? The reason was the funding. A school like ours that is independent and does not rely solely on that is flexible enough, adaptable enough to serve most of the needs of those students. But special education does not serve everyone in every capacity. The 3 gates that a student has to get through to receive benefits can be challenging, and not every student meets those. And in some cases, they put specific impediments in their way. And I want to make sure that that is not necessarily the answer that everybody is looking for. I think we need to have a diverse ecosystem that meets everybody's needs. Thank you for your time.
I'm Ed Morrow. I moved here 40 years ago with my family to start a business and to take advantage of the quality of life offered by this area. My academic specialty was the process of creating public policy. There are 2 comments that I have to make about the process that you are going through and the rulemaking. The first concerns comments that have already been brought up by some of our brilliant students from the area. Rulemaking tends to rigidify and homogenize. Too many rules and poorly constructed rules make things more the same and more rigid. And I think some of the rules you're proposing applies to that. We don't need greater homogenization. The previous speaker spoke about the diversity. Many people have spoken about choice. I think an aspect that hasn't been made about choice, it's been made tangentially a couple of times, is the variation of selection. You can have a choice between two schools and you've got choice. But if you've got a variety of selection available to you, then you have a proliferation of choices. And that's what we've got here, and that's what I would urge you to protect in your rulemaking and reduce the rulemaking to a minimum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, and thank you for your time. I'm Jane Worley, and I stand here as a professional and as a resident and parent. I share in opposition to the State Board of Education Rule 2200 series, which, if approved, it would inherently limit choice and not foster equitable access to promote an individual's educational excellence. And just to piggyback on, I think it was a colleague that I didn't know that was going to speak, but to take it a little step further with some other kind of experiences in my role in the state. As a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I've had the privilege of practicing in Vermont, all over Vermont, in the Northeast Kingdom and in the southern parts of Vermont and in Rutland for the last 20 years. And I see individuals, adolescents through the lifespan, in inpatient, outpatient, and in prisons, in schools, both private and public. And I can tell you that also working for 8 years as a private consultant to the state of Vermont for vocational rehabilitation and for the Reach Up, which is dealing with the poorest of the poor women. I can tell you that one of the things, apart from treating them with medicines to help them with their psychiatric conditions or to address learning conditions, the primary thing that we talk about is really what choices they need to make in order to become happier, to become productive in their lives. And when we really take a look at that, it has to do mostly with education. Education that doesn't necessarily mean that it fits into a public school or a private school. It may be something that they get a skill that provides for vocational rehabilitation. So I just want to reiterate that one last thing, that perhaps you might consider when you look at the studies or conducting studies, that you do a retrospective sampling of looking at the school's graduates so that you can see the differences between those who have gone on with and came from an education of choice versus otherwise. Thank you
very much.
Hi, my name's Ellen. I moved here in 2004. Both my children graduated from BBA. My daughter happened to be the salutatorian of her class. I grew up telling my kids I didn't care if they did their homework, as long as they were good people. But I didn't really fit into New Jersey in many ways. My father hired the first woman of color in the state of New Jersey as a saleswoman because he knew what it felt like. He was held down as a child. He was extremely poor. And he made a practice of empowering people. I'm one of those people. I moved to Vermont because it's an empowering place, and it was a revelation for my family. They sent my daughter to Williams College to do math. I can't do math because they couldn't do what they needed to do with her. Then she went to Carnegie Mellon. Every time a dignitary came to Carnegie Mellon, they had my daughter take Vandana Shiva out for dinner. Nobel Peace Prize winner. This is amazing. This happened because of this, because of the greatness, the revelation of what we have here. My daughter's graduation speech, I reinterpreted this summer. It was about Poincare's method of reinterpreting the world and the axis of things and how we impact each other. And it was about the chaos theory. Now, you're talking to someone that doesn't know anything about math, but I know about logic. And I said, there's something wrong with this theory, Leah, because everything we do on this earth impacts each of us. It touches us. What you're doing is going to shake, rattle, and destroy what has existed here for centuries. This is a dangerous thing. This does not make sense.
You've already had your 2 minutes.
I was about to say, I'm about to dismiss you. I wanted to point out, though, that we have some students still in the audience, and I think they deserve a round of applause for civic engagement. I want to point out that Brian Keefe, the Giannottis, retired Navy SEAL Chris Howe were the first 3, I think, or 4 to speak, and they're still here, and you're still here. And so,
Hey, on behalf of the State Board of Education, I want to thank you all for tonight. I mean, we've obviously heard some very passionate people, and we appreciate it. We've learned from it. We'll take it back, and we'll do some work on these rules. So, thank you very much for coming, and thank you.